have such a greater appreciation for life, for everything in it, for the people in my life.
Life is different for Kristin Steiner. After life-changing news, 3 words from her doctor.
And he said, "You have cancer."
Since she was small, a farm girl in tiny Perham, Minnesota, Kristin has journaled, writing down her personal thoughts.
I would sit outside, and I remember writing little stories, you know, thinking I was going to be this fabulous author someday.
But she never imagined what she would write in her journal on a Monday afternoon, just a few weeks ago.
I do not want to die. I have just begun to live.
Are you a risk to society?
No, I'm not.
Viewers know Kristin as a tough investigative reporter for 5 Eyewitness News. It's a world where a journalist always feels the heat.
How do you explain that?
But in February, Kristin felt something else. She was tired, her back hurt, lack of appetite, and frankly, her stomach was bloated.
You know, I just thought it was the stress, or I wasn't eating properly, or working out enough, or something. I just brushed it off, and I wish I hadn't.
Finally, the pain was too much to brush off. An exam in an emergency room, an ultrasound, and then a doctor told her shocking news.
You have a tumor, and you have a very large tumor. It's 13 centimeters, which is the size of a very large softball / grapefruit / you know, baby's head.
The tumor was near her right ovary. Surgery was next. It went well. The news from her surgeon was good.
He said, just so you know, only 1% of these tumors, these types of tumors, turn out to be cancerous.
Of course, tests needed to be done just to make sure. And a few days later, back in her doctor's office, Kristin's journey changed directions.
He looked at me and he said, Kristin, unfortunately, you're that 1%. Remember that 1% I told you about? You're the 1%. And I just looked at him. I thought he was joking or something. I mean, I didn't know what was coming out of his mouth. I just didn't expect that. Completely floored. What do you mean I'm the 1%? What the hell do you mean I'm the 1%? You mean I have cancer? And he said, you have cancer. I just sat there and I kept saying no. I just said no, 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 no. No, I can't have cancer. I'm 36 years old, for God's sakes.
She cried, alone for hours. She couldn't talk, couldn't tell anyone. So just like when she was a little girl, Kristin went to her journal and she wrote, barely 2 hours after hearing she had ovarian cancer.
I wrote, you are the 1%. That's how he told me the news. 1 out of 100. And I wrote, I've spent my whole life wanting to be that special person who stands heads above the rest of the pack. But right now, I think I'd give anything to be one of the other 99.
What was next? Was the diagnosis early enough? What should she do? How could she tell her family? So many unknowns, but one life or death truth.
For all I do not know today, I do know one thing for certain. I do not want to die. I have just begun to live.
Cocktail party. It kicked the cancer cocktail party. No, wait, I gotta get this title right. It's Kristin's Kick the Cancer Cocktail Party.
48 hours before the most important day of her life,
I needed some girl power.
Yes.
Kristin Steiner leans on her friends.
I love you. And I know all these people love you. And I'm so glad. Because you're going to kick that cancer, girl.
Right now, their support
I love you all.
And I hope you know that.
is the best medicine.
To kick in the cancer.
I have faith, and I know that people are praying, and I'm praying so hard that everything turns out okay.
It's just been days since her doctor told Kristin, "You have cancer."
How do you wrap your brain around those 3 words? How do you do that? Because it doesn't feel real. It just doesn't feel real.
She talked to 3 doctors.
The first 2 doctors I talked to immediately said, well, the typical course of action here is a hysterectomy, and they'll remove your other ovary as well, and then chemo, which for you it would be 6 rounds of chemo.
But the 3rd doctor, a specialist called a gynecological oncologist, told her he would operate to see if the cancer had spread, then decide what to do. And he prescribed hope, the hope that Kristin might not need chemotherapy or a hysterectomy.
I'm really hopeful that that doesn't happen. I mean, I haven't had kids yet, so I'm really hoping that doesn't have to happen.
Kristin says goodbye to her best friend, who came to be with her. Her mother and father will take her to the hospital.
The first when I heard, I think I probably cried 2 days and 2 nights straight.
And I am scared. I am scared.
Now, so little of this is in her control.
You just got to hope and pray for the best. I mean, what's there is there. And whether or not, we don't know. That's why we're going to look.
Dr. Matthew Bente will operate at Abbott Northwestern Hospital. Using a scope and looking at a monitor, he searches for cancer. He knows that by the time 3/4 of women with ovarian cancer are diagnosed, the cancer is already spread.
So far, so good.
The first bit of good news: Kristin's remaining ovary appears to be cancer-free. They'll take dozens of biopsies. It will take hours. And after 4 hours of surgery,
To my naked eye, it didn't appear that there was, cancer anywhere. I have nothing but good news to tell you.
Well, thank you.
Nothing but what?
Nothing but good news. So basically at this point, a few minutes after the operation is over, this is probably, the best news that I can give someone is that I didn't see anything that obviously looked like it was cancer.
Kristin did not have a hysterectomy. Final lab results will take a few days, but right now, in the wee hours of the morning, Kristin Steiner is in the clear.
Hi, honey. How you doing?
I feel like a Mack truck ran me over.
I bet you do, honey.
The next morning,
We're still waiting for tests, pathology tests, but as of right now, it's just incredible news. It's just incredible.
2 days crawl by. 2 days to wonder what's next in Kristin's fight. Finally,
Hello.
Hello.
How about some good news?
I would love some.
Every single biopsy, every washing, everything is negative. So that's good.
That's great.
Good job.
this year, about 22,000 women across the country will be diagnosed with ovarian cancer. 16,000 of them will not survive. Kristin Steiner is one of the lucky ones. She is a cancer survivor.
This is the best news. I thank God. I thank God.
Bye.
Sorry, no, gotta go change.
In the month since Kristin's surgery, recovery has been slow. She lost weight and she's been weak, but she's getting there.
I'm doing okay. You know, I'm recovering. It's a slow recovery, and there's still some pain.
Doctors discovered a tumor near Kristin's right ovary, and she heard the worst diagnosis.
And he said, "You have cancer."
It has been the worst of times. Medical tests, 2 surgeries, and dozens of biopsies. But after all of it, the best possible news from her doctor: Kristin is cancer-free. So at the age of 36, it's a new start.
And I believe that this is God's way of telling me that I have a mission, and that is to continue to get the word out there about ovarian cancer.
Kristin went public about her cancer, hoping to touch people's lives. And judging from the thousands of emails and cards,
Your story has touched my heart in so many ways. I, like you, am a cancer survivor.
she's done that. And you've touched her too.
I am so grateful. It's just so kind. People are so incredibly kind.
You know, on those bad days, I need to go back to them and remember why I did it and that it's a good thing.
She's meeting with other young survivors. Some have been battling ovarian cancer for years.
I'm so happy that we're talking about ovarian cancer in general, and I think that this story has created a lot of awareness, which I think it's just so important.
Congratulations.
Talking about symptoms and early detection is one thing, but taking action is another.
Ovarian cancer research is underfunded. There is not enough research going on.
So Kristin is starting a foundation called the Can Curables.
It's fun. It's the Can Curables to raise money for cancer research. We are going to have fun.
Okay, but where do these go?
Now, with the help of her family,
You have to shove them inside the body.
she's creating the Can Curable Critters.
Big Puffy.
That's a good name, honey.
Brightly colored stuffed animals with a special ability.
They're kind of like giving yourself a big hug.
What do you think of that?
These samples are just the start. They'll be sold across the country with all of the money going to cancer research and education. And Kristin wants to give them to children diagnosed with cancer. Her nieces and nephew have let her know kids are going to love them.
I think it's a great thing because, if you can figure out how to get that cancer thing gone, it's going to be a great help to the world.
Like any cancer survivor, Kristin lives with the fear that the cancer could come back. But the focus is on moving ahead. The foundation, family, friends, and life.
I have a purpose, and this is my mission, and I'm excited about it. It's different than anything I expected, but I think it's going to be really good.